So much focus throughout the pandemic has been on our restaurants, but they are back open, but still in a limited capacity. However, there's a little bit of a shift. And for the first time, the governor is really kind of putting a metric out there that we can all see as to what it's going to take to get back to normal. To talk more, let's bring in John McNamara. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. John, by the way, thank you so much for always giving us time throughout this pandemic, because you're such an important voice for all of the Michigan restaurants and lodging. We should mention the hotels are a part of this as well. And so we always appreciate your time.
No, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So give us an update. We know that the governor came out with her, vaccination to normal plan. Your thoughts?
So we were thrilled to, finally have a plan in place of, once you get to this step, this step, this is what happens. So, in the short term, the focus is going to be, helping out in any way that we can to encourage people to go out and get their shot. If it's Johnson & Johnson, you're one and done. If it's Pfizer or Moderna, obviously it's two with some time in between. But, the goal right now is vaccines into arms as quickly and as often as possible. Because, if we don't get to 70, which is sort of the magic number to go back to completely normal, then we're sort of in this, purgatory state of, well, we're stuck at 66, 67, then what happens? Because there are some legitimate reasons why people, especially younger people between 20 and 30, are choosing not to get vaccinated.
And we also know that age group is a good portion of the people that work in the restaurant and lodging industry.
Yep, it is, and it's also the industry is highly transient as well. So they might work at 2 or 3 different places, and they might stay somewhere Monday through Wednesday, and then work somewhere else on the weekend and stay there. So we are seeing lots of individual restaurants incentivizing to get vaccines. There's one locally here that gave every team member there $100 after they showed their vaccination card. So we're starting to see the industry incentivize going out and getting the vaccine.
So with that, John McNamara with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. If I can talk for just a minute, I was on the MIOSHA website a little bit earlier today, because we do know that they were really kind of the enforcement arm of the COVID-19 rules and regulations throughout the pandemic for the restaurants and businesses. They were the ones that so many people were afraid of. We know that maybe the health department came in, but to lose your liquor license, that can devastate you. You could close down. So one thing I've noticed though is they do not seem to be really citing businesses over the past month or so. I think I saw a couple of small citations in the month of March. Nothing was listed on their dashboard, because they came out with a dashboard for people to kind of follow along where businesses were. What are you hearing from people on your side of the industry?
From our side, we're hearing that so far, recently, since the reopening, and since we avoided a third shutdown, and since the weather has gotten better, that the attitude of MIOSHA and health departments have mostly been to avoid issues. Not that they haven't been there, but they've been more helpful in saying, hey, let's do this instead of that, or change this or change that, and not citing violations. And realizing that it's been a hard 14 months for this industry, and it's going to be a hard 5 or 6 more, especially with the massive labor shortage. And then in the back of every business owner's mind right now is, what happens if we don't get to 70%, which is a concern. But for right now, we're very happy that the plan is out there, and we're going to do everything that this association can to help encourage people go out and get their shot, and then hopefully just get back to normal.
We have other states, New York, New Jersey. They've taken a different approach in that they're saying, hey, I think it's going to be May 18th. The city and the state can reopen again.
Yep.
Do you think that if we don't reach that 70% number that the governor has set, that maybe there could be enough pressure for her, especially if all of our neighboring states and other states remove the mandates and, open back up, that she'll do so as well? Or you don't have a crystal ball? We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't, I think anyone will realize and accept the fact that if, 45 other states are fully open and there's 4 or 5 lagging behind, I think there's going to be an immense amount of pressure, not only from, internally in the state of Michigan, but probably from, even across the country of, let's just get this country back open. And, people need to feel safe. People need to know that it's safe to go out and do what you used to do, pre-COVID. And if there are still states that lock down, that, I think it still puts that thought in people's minds of, well, why are we open and they aren't? Is there something that, something that people, they don't know that we don't? So I really hope that President Biden is correct and that by July 4th, we're really, really close to 70%. I think that'd be great. I think it'd be especially great for Northern Michigan, who had a really tough time last season and is in danger of having a really another tough time this season, especially on the meeting, wedding, and event side. I talk to hotels every day who say I had 3 weddings cancel for July because I can't guarantee them that they can do this, this, and this, but they can do it in Ohio, they can do it in Indiana, they can do it in Wisconsin. So that's where they're going. So, we really hope we get there. We're doing everything we can to assist to get there. But this really is on the general public to go out, and if they haven't gotten their vaccine, maybe do some general education of the benefits of it, and then realize that, you really are helping Michigan and the rest of the country come back by getting that shot.
Yeah, I'm thinking about people that try to plan a wedding, and so much goes into it and so much expense goes into it. And when you're planning a wedding and you don't know what's going to happen or how many people you can have,
Yep.
it,
Yeah.
it,
So
it's
yeah,
hard.
it is. I have a very good friend who's supposed to get married in Saugatuck in June this year, and I probably talk to him every other day, and he's like, "What do you know? What do you know?" He's like, his fiance and wife to be is very, very nervous that, there's all these people coming in, planning to come in from out of state, and, they've ordered this and put that deposit down, and they're, worried they might have to start calling people and saying, "Hey, we love you, but can't do it."
Can you just send the gift and maybe money?
Right? Yeah. We'll have a link. You can watch it.
So with that, John McNamara, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association, you touched on it earlier, the staffing shortage.
Yes.
As businesses start to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, they're hit by a staffing shortage. And we're seeing right now businesses that are having to reduce their hours because they simply don't have enough employees. How long do you anticipate that's going to continue?
I think probably until September, because that's when the extended unemployment benefits run out. But, this is not just mom and pops that this is hitting. I mean, it's hitting them harder because they're smaller business operators. But, I mean, most Chipotles in the state of Michigan are not open for dinner simply because they don't have the staff. I talked to a member yesterday who operates 7 different properties. He had 150 interviews scheduled and had 6 people show up because they can forward that email that says they're looking for work and they have the interview, but then there's no follow-up of did they show up or not. So they're fulfilling their duty and saying, well, I booked an interview, but they're just not showing up. So that, and then the supply chain of food right now is absolutely crazy. You saw a local place here who had to take their buffalo wings off the menu simply because they couldn't get a consistent supply, and those prices have skyrocketed so much. That's gone. So, we're hopeful. We're glad we have a plan, but it's still going to be a very tough 4 or 5 months for this industry. And then, for that, the supply chain is going to take some time to recover as well.
Wow, there are so many facets that go into running a
Yep.
business, when you're looking at that, the staffing, and then on top of the staffing, it's the supply chain, like you just mentioned. So with that too, we should remind people when they do go out, be patient
Yes.
and be kind, because I've seen even kind of in my world where some people are being a little bit less than nice because service is taking longer.
Yeah, and I mean that your server is. I'm not kidding. Your server is probably on their 5th or 6th double a lot of servers are working open to close 6-7 days a week, just to keep their job and help, their boss or their business owner that they've worked for a while keep the doors open. But yeah, if you go out, show some dignity, show some grace, and understand that everyone's doing the best they can. But there are businesses who are offering people $2,000 signing bonuses right now, and they still can't get people.
Wow. It's just, how did we get here as America?
Right.
John McNamara, Vice President, Government Affairs with the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. So if I can ask a question, because I do know more and more as people are going out. I was at a restaurant the other day and I overheard someone ask the server, have you been vaccinated? What is the conversation in your arena and with some of the business owners, and how to guide their staff members to answer that question? Or do you think this is going to become part of a marketing plan eventually to say our staff is vaccinated?
I think it will become part of a marketing plan of, our staff is, I think you're going to see on marquees, open, staff fully vaccinated. Now, it's tough to do that. The COVID-19 vaccine is not FDA approved, so it cannot be mandated by that. But I mean, you saw U of M and MSU both have said, if you want to live in the dorms, you're getting your vaccine. Obviously, incoming freshmen have to get the meningitis shot, before moving the dorms. So I think it will be part of a marketing campaign. And I think what's really going to do it for staff and probably for the general public is some type of incentive of, okay, if you go do this, we'll give you the day off and $100 to go get your shot, or we'll do this and get your shot. Now, getting people a day off right now is hard just because staffing is so short. But hopefully, again, people will just keep realizing that the vaccine is safe, and it's the only way we're going to get back to normal right now.
So, we've talked a lot about the restaurants, but if we can shift a little bit to the hotel industry.
Sure.
Because it does seem like services like Airbnb, they're exploding right now. They can't get enough properties to rent out because it does appear as more families or individuals tend to feel more comfortable going into like a private home, not being around other people. Do you anticipate that's going to continue to be a hamper for the hotel industry?
So the short-term rentals were an issue before this, and then it's largely a tax issue. And I mean, that's something that there's legislation moving on to work to address that. But I think eventually people will, especially as business travel picks back up, people will continue to go to hotels. I mean, are there advantages to Airbnb? Sure, but there are also massive advantages to hotels that Airbnbs don't offer, such as a business center, a workout room, or a pool, or things like that. And also, usually, hotels and banquet centers are closer to city centers, where Airbnb, you might be able to get someone's apartment for the weekend, but if you want a house or something like that, you're probably farther out of town, and you can't walk to everything like you could from a hotel. But hotels have been hit just as hard, if not harder, throughout this, and their comeback is going to be just as tough.
Well, we know for the state of Michigan, the travel industry and the hotel business is such a vital part of our bottom line. We need to continue to support them as well. And I kind of feel like they've been lost in the mix of this conversation because we've had so much of a focus on the restaurants, because that's something we all take advantage of every day. Whereas the hotels, it's more if you're traveling or something of that nature.
It is, but it's also because, I mean, and you're exactly right, but it's also because the hotels were never forced to close. Hotels have been open throughout this now. They've been hovering at between 10 to 25% occupancy if they're lucky. So they've been open, but when no one's traveling for business and leisure travel is severely hampered, if not completely banned, then it's hard for them as well. So tough road for them as well. But hopefully, this summer, as it gets nicer out and people are getting their vaccines, it will be a very vibrant tourism season, and hopefully, we can see more, increased capacity at Tiger Stadium, and people continue to be out in downtown Detroit, and events in downtown Grand Rapids. And then obviously, Northern Michigan is everyone's favorite place to be in the summer. So hopefully it's a great season for them as well.
With that too, John, before we let you go, just another minute or two with you here on the show. The Small Business Association, the grants were made available starting this week. We know in previous programs, it was really hard to tap into some of this money, especially for some of our smaller businesses. Do you anticipate this is going to be enough to help keep some of the doors open for some of our restaurants?
We really appreciate the Restaurant Recovery Fund. However, right now, I think it's estimated between 15 and 20% of the people that applied will be able to receive some type of funding for this. They got well over 100,000 applications and $28.6 billion is a staggering amount of money, but in the big picture for this issue, it's not. I mean, they were sending out emails before the application went live Monday at noon that this money, that's simply not going to be enough.
And that's what's so hard, is because it's so frustrating, especially I think more so for the mom and pops, because they don't have accountants that can go on and try to help them navigate. So they're doing this while they're trying to run a business. You wonder too, after this pandemic, how many of these small business owners are going to say, we're done. It's just not worth it.
No, I think you're going to see that a lot. And you're seeing this sometimes, with multi-generational family restaurants of the third generation is just sort of saying, man, grandma and grandpa built this business. Mom and dad kept it going. I love it. But, this has scared me so much that, no one ever wants to do this again. I hope no one ever has to do this again. But yeah, we will see. And it's going to be a very interesting comeback for this industry. And, this industry was the first shut down. It's probably going to be the last to be fully integrated. And it's going to be the longest comeback.
So with that, John, any last minute words of advice or nuggets of information you want to share before we say goodbye today?
I would just reiterate that if you go out, staff is working as hard as they can. Owners are working as hard as they can. So, be patient and just be glad you're able to be out.
Exactly. Well, John, we always appreciate your time. We know that you guys have been working around the clock to try to help so many of these businesses here in the state of Michigan. John McNamara, he is the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. You can follow the association on social media to keep up to date with some of the changes. John, again, thank you as always for your time.
Thank you.